Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Randy. I am the assistant to the director of Practicum Education. Um, we have undergone a change where we are no longer the Office of Field Education. We're now the Office of Practicum. So if you look through our website, you'll see that it is slowly changing language over to that. So I've got a little agenda up there. The purpose of today's meeting is really just a brief overview. Traditionally, in the past, we've not really done info sessions. We just kind of geared everything up for an orientation, but I thought a brief info session might help. I know that I get emails with lots of questions. Some people have anxieties, or maybe they have some things that they want to be able to arrange and be prepared for prior to the start. So maybe I can answer some questions to help with those, but it is a brief overview. And we will have an orientation that's more thorough and some other announcements I'll make in this presentation. So here's my little agenda: being prepared for the first day of internship, a very brief overview of assignments and the hour requirements. If there is anyone on here at the end, I'd be glad, I'll stop recording and I'd be glad to answer questions about the placement process if you have not already been placed by now. And time for Q&A, which I think is the most important part of any of these info sessions personally. When does practicum begin? It's August 28th. And that date's important because you have to remember that when you meet with your agency to determine, where your placement is going to be, you pick what days you're going to be on. You have 2 days, most of you. So is it going to be a Tuesday, Thursday? Are you going to do a Monday, Wednesday? So depending on what day you select and agree upon, that will be your first day of practicum. So whatever the week of the 28th is, you still need to determine what your first day is. So here's some tips once you've been placed. So once you've been placed with the agency, the communication should really be between you and the assigned agency site. If you have any particular questions that have to do with the school, by all means, please email me or email any of the contacts that are listed on the Practicum Office of Practicum Education. But if you have questions specifically about your internship and what it entails over there, then you're going to want to be in communication with that agency. We are a little bit hands-off with that type of communication, at least until the start of the internship. So what you'll want to do to be prepared for that first day is find out who your assigned practicum instructor is, make sure to get their contact information. So some of you may have interviewed already with the person who will be your supervisor, but that's not the case. Sometimes someone from the HR department might be the one who did the supervision, or maybe they haven't decided yet, who is going to be your supervisor. So whoever the contact person is, make sure that you know before the start date is and confirm who your actual supervisor or practicum instructor is and get their contact information, because there might be something that comes up or a question and they are the person you're probably going to want to get in touch with ASAP. Kind of how I said in the previous slide, the first week of practicum begins August 28th. That's the first week of internship starting. So make sure that you confirm your official first day on site. So whether it's the Tuesday of that week, the Wednesday, whatever that date is. Are there agency requirements prior to your start date? Some agencies may require a background check. They may require that you get a physical. They may require a TB test, fingerprinting. Some of those things can take a few weeks. And some agencies cannot allow you to really have interactions with clients until you meet some of those requirements. So you'll want to ask those questions ahead of time and make sure that you're not going to get delayed in starting the first week, because there really are only so many weeks that you have to get your hours in. So you don't want to be like a week behind or two because you didn't get the requirements in on time. On that same token, you can inquire. There are some agencies that they have required like online trainings, and you may be able to get some of those done early, and you can consult with the office of Practicum Education with me. Sometimes some of those can count towards your hours. And there are some agencies that require that training too before you meet with clients. So also, as I mentioned, the School of Social Work will be hosting an orientation event before the fall. Make sure you come to that. There will be a possibly more in-depth information session hosted by us for your practicum component. And I guarantee, or at least I can't guarantee, but there's a good chance that by the time we get closer to this starting, you'll be in a different place and you may have different questions than you have now. So make sure you come there and get your questions answered. And one of the components of practicum is that you will be assigned a liaison, a faculty liaison, and you'll receive an introductory email from that liaison and who it's going to be really around the first week of practicum starting, so August 28th, sometimes a little before. Just depends if there's been any delay in why we've assigned those faculty, but should be that first week. All right. Here's your hour requirements. You can find it on our website. So if you don't know by now, your internship is going to be fall and winter semesters. Although, no, there shouldn't be any part-time BSWs on this call, but part-time BSWs are the only cohort that have a little bit of a different, their winter, summer. But everyone on this call, it should be fall and winter semesters is your internship. So 16 hours a week. There's 14 and a half weeks in the semester. For BSWs, it's going to be 230 hours with a total of 460. For MSW, you can read at the bottom. For advanced year, you can note that you can opt into a 3-day-a-week internship, which is 24 hours and there's a little bit involved in that I don't need to go over at this time. But here's your practicum hours, approximately August 28th to the last day, April 19th. And then this time next year, if you're a core, you'll be doing it all over again for your advanced year. So here's all your assignments, and these are the dates that are for the fall. Don't have to write this down. You don't need these slides if you don't want. I'd be welcome to be happy to send them out, but you can find these dates on our website at all times. This is the fall one. As I said, these are the assignments you will be doing, and you'll be doing them again in winter. So you do all these in fall, all these in winter. The PIASC at the bottom, which is the Practicum Instructor Assessment. Oh no, I'm recording this and I can't remember the whole acronym. Student. It's one of those days, it's late. Anyways, this is what determines your grade. And so all of these assignments have to be done, including the hours, for us to submit the grade on time. And that's at the end of fall and winter. Most of your classes, in fact, probably all of your classes, they'll be using Canvas. Now Canvas will be like the platform for your assignments, your syllabus. Practicum's a little different. We do have a Canvas, which has modules on it, which are educational in nature. And I'm not going to use this training or this information session necessarily to address modules. But do know that all of your homework assignments, they are done through the IPT system. So the IPT system is where your time log is, which I'll talk about next, your homework assignments. And we use IPT because it's interactive with your agency, because your agency also has the IPT profile, and your supervisor / practicum instructor, they also have an account, and they're going to be giving feedback, and they have to sign off on your homework assignments as well to determine your grade. So everything is done through IPT for the practicum education portion. I graduated in 2012 from the advanced standing program here at Wayne State, and we did not have an electronic time log. I barely remember, but I think I had to add everything up on a piece of paper at the time. But now we have a really nice time log for you as part of the IPT. And it actually does the cumulative math for you. We do ask that you don't, and we also ask our instructors and our liaisons to keep up on this, we ask that you don't go ahead. So don't just put in extra dates like weeks in advance. It might get confusing and there might be some problems with accurately putting your information in, because you can't anticipate when you may have missed a day, or hours may have been different on a day. So my recommendation is to do it daily or weekly, or whatever process you find works for you. And this is how you keep track of your hours, which is through the IPT. Just wanted to point this out on our website. This is like the little table of contents on the School of Social Work's Practicum Education tab. So if you go to our main website, the School of Social Work one, we have our tab Practicum Education. All of the dates that I gave you, they're from the Practicum dates section, where I have the top little 3 arrows pointing. So you can always go there to get important dates of homework assignments. I also put some arrows to note for the documents and assignments section, because that is where you can see examples of all of the homework assignments. So if you want to get a little familiar with what the learning plan is, what your process recording is, which you'll have 5 of those, what the midterm evaluation that the instructor does looks like, or your final evaluation, there's examples of all of that on there. And also, if you can see my little announcement there, we do host an info session in September where we talk about the learning plan and the process recording or praxis, and we can answer questions. And it will be before the due date. So if you remember, the learning plan here and the first process recording is both due on the same day. And we will host that information session before those dates so that you can have some questions answered to make sure you get those in on time. And that is really it. I can open it up for questions. Hopefully that was just a short and sweet presentation for you.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm assuming if there's no questions, it's because
I like the style of the slide.
Oh, thank you. I was feeling very Devo. I had to stick with an 80s theme.
Yeah.
You're breaking up, Vince. I couldn't catch it.
Yeah, I think the spot I'm at my house gets spotty internet connection or something.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions? I mean, I'm hoping if you don't, it's because my presentation answered everything for you.
Yes, I think it did on my end.
Okay.
Same for me.
Okay.
For now.
I'll give it a few more minutes before I'll stop recording if no questions on your end, Jacob. Okay.
I guess I have maybe a slightly specific question, so I don't know if this would be the space for it though.
No, you can. You can. I mean, if it's something I can't answer, or it's not the space for it, I will answer.
No, it's not personal. Just I was wondering, because I got a notification in IPT that I was kind of connected with an agency, and so it just had the person's name and phone number, and I reached out, and I was wondering I haven't gotten in touch with her yet because she wasn't in the office, so it followed me through someone else. But I was just wondering in general, it seemed like maybe they didn't quite know who I was, and maybe it's just because I got in touch with not the correct person. But I was wondering once we're matched in IPT, does that organization get notified and kind of prep that we'll be reaching?
Oh.
Or how does that work?
Vince, do you want to turn your camera off and see if that helps? I think I caught most of your questions.
Oh, bummer. Damn. All right.
So the way that it works is that we have a designated contact from that agency, and that's the only person that we contact, and we connect you and the agency with that contact person. If you're having any issues connecting with that person, You can always reach out to your placement assistant. I always really err on the side of caution. If there's any concern or confusion and it doesn't seem like it's being streamlined or other like hands are starting to get involved, which it sounds like maybe is what's happened with you, is they've passed you to some other people in the agency, just let the placement assistant know. And that way we can send out an email and make sure that there's not any confusion. The thing you don't want to happen is not keep the office, like your placement assistant, in the know of what's happening. And then it turns out there was an issue and then there's been weeks involved and we didn't know, and we have to, worst case scenario, find you a different placement because there was some miscommunication. Unfortunately, the agencies may or may not, some are better than others, communicate with us. So I always tell the students at the end of my meeting with them that really ultimately it's on you to stay in communication with our Office of Practicum Education, because it's too hard to monitor an agency if they're not participating or they're not responding well. So if you have any confusion, just shoot, which I'm your placement assistant, so you can just shoot me an email and I would be glad to send an email out and connect you and just make sure everyone's on the same page if it's confusing.
Cool, thanks. That clears that up.
It does. There's just so many factors. I had a student this semester who they were scheduled for an interview, and then the person who had agreed to do the interview to supervise the students put in their resignation. Literally put in their resignation. And so they were then fumbling with hiring the new staff who was going to take over the supervision. And then a lot of people started getting involved in the process who have not contacted Wayne State University. So that when that stuff happens to student, you shouldn't have to worry about a mess like that. Just bring in the placement assistant so that we can straighten everything out, and we'll cut through all that and make sure you're on the right track. Veronica, you asked when is the recording or where is it going to be available? I give it to one of our IT guys after this, and we will post it on the website. It'll be visible on the website, and we have a YouTube channel, and that's the platform that they use. So we'll also be available on the YouTube channel or on our website. I can also send it in an email. I can send a link in an email to anyone who RSVP'd for this as well.
I do have one question. I think you did touch on it, but maybe
Sure.
I forgot. You said that they will send an email out around like the week of practicum, but like, will they send another email before then? So like you mentioned something about like a background check or any other paperwork that we need to turn in. Do they usually send, let us know when we'll have to do that?
Yeah, so you're talking about two separate things, I believe. So the only email you're going to get the week of practicum is going to be who Wayne State has assigned as your liaison. So the liaisons are like, they're considered faculty. The liaisons are social workers hired by Wayne State University who act as like a liaison. They're like your main contact between the agency and the school. So they're a staff. They're someone who's hired by Wayne State. Now, your question about like any requirements needed by the agencies are very independent from us in that sense. So that's your responsibility, that you would want to make sure whoever your agency is, you want to get in contact with them and find out who your instructor is. So your instructor is does everyone know who an instructor is? The difference in the roles? And I could go on our website and really show you how to break all this down. So description really quick, my job prior to working at Wayne State was I was working at a mental health clinic in Detroit. I was at a community mental health agency, and I took on students and I was their supervisor. So I was a practicum instructor, and I was just affiliated with the agency that I was working at, and I wanted to take on students. And so I was the instructor. That's different than the liaison. So if we interviewed a student when I worked there, the student would want to contact me and find out what requirements does the student need so that they can be ready to start on August 28th. And that depends on the agency. A large agency like the one I worked at, the student would have had to be referred to the HR department. And the HR would help them, just like a new employee, help them take care of the background check and all of those requirements. So that won't be the school. That's your responsibility as the student to stay in contact with your agency to make sure you're ready for the 28th to begin. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Does anybody want me to just share my screen and show you a couple things on our website that might be helpful places to know, or have you all explored our website? Do you want to just put a yes? If I get one yes in the chat, then I will do this. Okay,
Yeah.
I got one yes. So you can either stay on for this or you can leave. It's up to you. But I'll take you on a little tour around our website for some things. So let me share my screen. All right, so here's our website. For the purpose of practicum, this is the tab that you're going to select. However, if you are interested in school social work for your practicum, I recommend you read about this because there are some requirements for school social work for an MSW. But other than that, just don't worry that I just said that. But you're going to go to Practicum Education. And we've really revamped our website, I think, to make it a lot easier for students to navigate. So like, this is something I think will be important that you'll want to visit as you start getting organized and it starts getting closer to the date. It's the practicum dates. So we've got like a little reminder of all the hours that are required. Don't forget the difference between per term versus complete number of hours needed, because it's 2 terms, it's 2 semesters. So 225 or 230 for BSW per term. So that's going to equal 460 or 450 by the end of your complete practicum. Whatever the current semester we're in is what the most recent date is. Right now, we have some part-time BSW students. Their practicum is winter and spring, summer. So that's why you're seeing these dates. Once this is over in August, then this will be the main one. But here's all your dates for fall, all the homework assignments. And we already have the winter one set up too. As an FYI, we have changed the term from field to practicum. This is something that the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, as well as other universities across the country, they're really changing the language. The term field has racist and just derogatory associations, it's been determined. And so we are in the process of revamping it. So when you see things like FIASC, it should be PIASC. Just know that we are in the process of changing all that as fast as we can. So for purposes of clarity, field and practicum is interchangeable. So yeah, know that these dates are here. You will also find these dates on your IPT. So like if you go to your IPT on your homepage, all your stuff that's due will be here too. You'll see like your process recording due dates. Right now, this is the spring, summer. So that's the due dates that you're seeing. But when it's fall or winter, we update that on IPT as well. Some other important, I think, tabs is your documents and assignments. So if you want to know what this learning plan is, we have a description. We have a PDF. I don't know if you all can see. Sometimes I know the pop-ups don't. Can you see the pop-up of the example?
It's kind of cut, like cutting it off a little.
Okay. Just what's important is that you know that these examples are on our website. So if you want to see an example of the process recording, here's an example and an explanation. You get the gist. We also have a praxis. If you're somebody who, when you're doing your weekly supervision with your instructor, maybe the instructor needs a little more structure, or maybe you're someone who needs structure, maybe you get in these and you're just not sure how to utilize the time. We do have an option of a supervision agenda with an example of ways that you could adjust your hourly supervision. Trying to think if there's anything else. We've got an example of the evaluation, the midterm one and the final one. The fact page, there's some really good questions on here, and I know this because I get a lot of emails from students while I'm placing them, or it's the start of practicum, where I point them to go to this part of our website. There's really good questions on here, like, can I be placed in an agency that's not currently approved? What's the difference between an academic advisor or a faculty practicum liaison or a field instructor or practicum instructor, which Ashley, I think that was like one of your questions, was the difference between the instructor and the liaison. This is one that comes up pretty frequently, is what if my agency is not what I expected or is not meeting my learning goals? And I'm just going to leave that there, because just keep that in mind if this comes up when you begin, that we have information on there. The other recommendation is just know our Practicum Education manual. It used to be a PDF of like 50 pages, but now it's pretty easy and interactive with hyperlinks. So just know, like, if you have a question, like, let's say the agency you're at goes on strike. What are you going to do if you need to get your hours at your internship? Just know that we have like a policy on that. And that's how you can use the manual. If you have questions, you can refer to that too. If you have any issues with navigating IPT, we have a tutorial. If you have an instructor that's having a hard time navigating it, we have a practicum instructor tutorial. But I think that is all that's really needed for the purpose of this. Veronica had a question about what needs to be included in your process recording. At this point, I recommend just reading over the process recording example if you want to be prepared. You really can't be prepared until you get into the practicum setting and have an idea of like what this is going to entail, what it's going to look like. Your instructor is someone who you can go to. A lot of our instructors, it's not their first time and they have already experienced going through process recordings with students. But really the best time to answer those questions will be when we have that info session, which will probably be the second week in September. We'll send an invite out where we will do an info session about it. We'll have some slides and we'll answer any questions you have about how to do your first process recording. There's a question about, is it WAFA? Would we be able to finish our hours early? The answer is no. No, you have to stay at your internship until the last day of the internship. So even if you got your hours done early, you can't finish the internship early. There are still due dates for assignments. There's still corresponding information there's a concurrent class that you're taking that's relevant to your internship, and some of the homework assignments in that class actually bounce back and forth with the internship. And that wouldn't really either be fair to the agencies, because the agencies are expecting, part of the contract is this is the start date and the end date. So whether you get hours done early or not, you have to stay till the last day of internship. But that's a good question because it logically makes sense, right? Any other questions? So Sandra asked, what if we don't get enough hours? Can we work extra days? Yes. Yes. I mean, however you need to make up the hours, you can work extra days. You're only designated to be there 16 hours a week. Although, just keep this in the back of your mind, if in your advanced year, students do have the choice to opt into a 24-hour-a-week internship, 3 days a week, but the difference is you've taken extra credits for that. So instead of a 4-credit internship, you've done 6 credits, which means you may forfeit like a elective for that. So that's just for perspective. So you should be doing 16 hours a week. Ideally, that's 2 8-hour shifts, although we know that some agencies may have not like a typical work schedule, or perhaps there's a meeting that's only on Tuesdays, that it's required that you're there. But those aren't one of the 2 days you're there, but you've carved out time for it. That's okay, but keep in mind that if you need to break up your days into more than 2 8-hour shifts, they really need to be 4-hour blocks. So you can't just do 2 hours here, 1 hour there to equal your 16. They need to be at least 4-hour blocks, unless it's an outlier reason, like a mandatory meeting that's only on a day that you just can't do your full internship hours. There is a little room for catching up on hours. So for example, if you look in the manual, and also it's in one of the things that you signed, it's in the, I think the affiliation agreement, or the provisions. An agency can expect students to come in on their designated days during the vacation. So like the winter vacation, the holiday vacation between when fall semester ends and winter semester starts. You may be required to still come in and do your internship, especially if you're at an agency where, let's say you run a group every Thursday, and that is your group, and that group is still going to be meeting at the agency. The agency can ask you and expect you to come in during those hours. But for students who maybe the agency says you can take that break off, or maybe you're behind on hours, just know that there are a couple times where you can add extra hours, such as through like a holiday break. What if we don't get enough hours? Okay. Someone asked, can you continue getting internship hours throughout the summer? So they are more spread out during the year. So the expectation is for the hours to be completed, the 225 or 230, depending if you're BSW or MSW. It's expected that those are completed within the fall semester and within the winter semester. Let's say you are short 50 hours in the fall, or short 10 hours or 15 hours. You will have to then request permission, and you'll go to your faculty liaison and work with your instructor. You're going to have to get permission for an incomplete, because the university has their own time frame for when we have to submit grades. We can't not submit a grade, but we can't submit your grade until all of those homework assignments that I showed you are done for the semester. And that also includes the time log, which is your 230 or 225 hours. So you don't want to spread it out, because you have to get permission to get an incomplete grade. And there's like a plan that's put in place showing when you're expected to make up those hours. So the only reason you would go into the summer in your second semester, so winter, ends around April, May. The only reason you would go into the summer is if there's like an unprecedented reason that you weren't able to get your hours, like perhaps something unprecedented that was unexpected happened. And in that case, you can work with the liaison and the instructor to put a plan in place to give you permission for an incomplete till you make up those hours. But no, they need to be done within the 14 and a half weeks in each semester. Any other questions? Going once, going twice?
I'm good. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, you're welcome, Vince. All right, well, it's official. I will stop the video.